The world of horror cinema has always had its fair share of hits and misses. But when it comes to The Front Room, the latest outing from A24, we find ourselves looking at a film that straddles the fine line between unsettling psychological horror and unintentional comedy. This cinematic experiment, directed by the Eggers brothers, is a challenging watch, not just because of its pacing and narrative decisions, but due to its unique approach to what horror can be. While some viewers may appreciate its atmospheric tension and thematic ambitions, many will likely feel confused or, frankly, underwhelmed. The film opens with an interesting setup that promises more than it eventually delivers. Based on a story by Susan Hill, the plot centers on Brandy's character, Belinda, who returns to care for her estranged stepmother, Solange, played by Kathryn Hunter. The sense of familial tension is palpable, and the setting of the story, a claustrophobic, dimly lit house, creates an immediate sense of dread. However, as intriguing as the premise is, the movie quickly loses steam. The major issue with The Front Room is its inability to maintain a coherent narrative. The pacing is slow, often dragging scenes longer than necessary, and this results in a disjointed film that struggles to find its footing. The potential for psychological horror is there, particularly with the underlying themes of family trauma, aging, and loss. Unfortunately, these themes are never fully explored, leaving the audience frustrated by the lack of emotional payoff. Perhaps the most disappointing aspect of The Front Room is its third act. After an hour of slow build-up and subtle foreshadowing, the film seems poised for a powerful climax. But instead of delivering a satisfying conclusion, the story veers into territory that feels unfocused and, frankly, bizarre. The final twist, which should have been a gut punch, comes off as anticlimactic and confusing. One of the film's main downfalls is its over-reliance on symbolism without sufficient narrative grounding. While allegorical elements are a staple of A24's horror repertoire, here they feel forced and surface level. For example, Solange's character is steeped in religious iconography, but it never leads to any meaningful commentary or resolution. Instead, the religious undertones seem like a crutch for an otherwise hollow plot, leaving viewers to wonder what, if anything, was being said. While the narrative may falter, the performances certainly don't. Kathryn Hunter's portrayal of Solange is a standout. Hunter brings a raw intensity to the role, combining vulnerability with a sinister edge that keeps the audience on their toes. Her character's physical and vocal mannerisms, especially during her coughing fits, are hauntingly believable and contribute to the film's eerie atmosphere. Hunter manages to toe the line between terrifying and pitiable, making Solange a character that's as complex as she is unsettling. Brandy's return to the big screen is another high point, though her character, Belinda, suffers from inconsistent writing. Brandy gives a heartfelt performance, fully embodying a woman caught between duty and horror, yet the script doesn't allow her character to evolve in meaningful ways. Still, Brandy's chemistry with Hunter creates moments of genuine tension that elevate the film beyond its weaker moments. If there's one thing A24 films consistently deliver on, it's the visual and auditory experience. The Front Room is no exception. The cinematography, courtesy of seasoned collaborators with A24, is moody and atmospheric, drenched in shadows that contribute to a sense of suffocating dread. The use of close-ups and dynamic lighting enhances the tension, creating a visual language that conveys more than the script ever could. Similarly, the sound design is top-notch, utilizing subtle cues to build suspense in ways that feel both organic and unsettling. From the creak of floorboards to the distant, eerie hum of a radio, every auditory element works in harmony to create a deeply immersive experience. However, the film's score, while effective in certain moments, suffers from repetitiveness, which eventually undercuts the tension it's trying to build. A24 films are known for pushing boundaries, often incorporating grotesque or shocking imagery to unsettle the audience. The Front Room leans into this tradition, but not always successfully. There are several scenes that feel gratuitously gross, focusing on bodily functions and decay in ways that feel less like artistic choices and more like cheap attempts to shock. One of the most infamous examples is Solange's repeated moments of physical degeneration, which include extended scenes of her soiling herself and leaving a mess. While this imagery might serve to highlight the horrors of caregiving for a sick family member, it's overused and ultimately detracts from the emotional weight of the film. Instead of provoking thought or fear, these scenes often come across as unintentionally comedic, leading to confusion about the movie's tone. Speaking of tone, The Front Room seems unsure of what kind of film it wants to be. While marketed as a psychological horror, there's an undeniable undercurrent of dark humor throughout the film. In fact, many scenes that were likely intended to be disturbing end up eliciting laughter from the audience. This is not entirely a bad thing. There's a certain charm to the film's campiness. But the lack of tonal consistency makes it difficult to take the film seriously, especially in the moments that are supposed to be emotionally impactful. The dinner scenes, for instance, are rife with awkward exchanges and darkly humorous moments that border on absurdity. Solange's erratic behavior during these scenes, coupled with Brandy's exasperated reactions, create a kind of tragicomic dynamic that's more entertaining than scary. For viewers who enjoy dark, absurdist humor, these moments might be a highlight, but for those expecting a traditional horror experience, it's likely to feel jarring. At just over 90 minutes, The Front Room should feel like a tight, compact film. But due to its pacing issues and repetitive scenes, it often feels much longer than it is. The film's middle act, in particular, drags on with little narrative progression. Scenes of Belinda caring for Solange become monotonous, and the lack of forward momentum makes it difficult to stay engaged. Ironically, while the film feels too long in some parts, it also feels too short in others. The third act, in particular, rushes through key plot points, leaving the audience with more questions than answers. Important themes, such as the religious undertones and the exploration of familial trauma, are only touched upon briefly, never receiving the full attention they deserve. The result is a film that feels unfinished, as if the filmmakers ran out of time or ideas. The Front Room is a film that tries to do a lot but ultimately falls short of its ambitions. While it excels in certain areas, namely its performances and visual style, it struggles to deliver a cohesive and compelling narrative. The pacing is uneven, the symbolism feels forced, and the tonal inconsistencies make it difficult to know whether we're supposed to be scared or amused. That being said, the film is not without its merits. Fans of Kathryn Hunter's work will undoubtedly appreciate her performance, and A24 aficionados who enjoy the studio's more experimental fare might find something to admire in the film's artistic choices. But for most viewers, The Front Room will likely be a forgettable entry in the A24 canon, an intriguing concept that never quite comes together. In the end, The Front Room serves as a reminder that even the most promising ideas can falter when execution falls short. If you're looking for a horror film that challenges conventions, you might find something to appreciate here. But if you're seeking a tightly woven narrative with emotional depth and genuine scares, you might want to look elsewhere.